It's time for the Kim Hammer Show, where you'll learn how your state government affects you, your family, and community. Here's Kim Hammer.
Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us on the Kim Hammer Show. We've got a great show lined up today, but first of all, let me just acknowledge the sponsors that help make this show possible. First of all, I'd like to give a shout out to Baxley Penfield Mounty Real Estate down in Saline County. We encourage you to give them a look if you're talking about doing any real estate needs. It's an excellent time to buy. Also a good time to sell if you're looking to sell as well. And they can take care of you in the residential, commercial, and also on the rental side of things, either on the commercial or on the residential. So they're a great place to go if you're looking to do any business related to real estate. That's Baxley Penfield Mounty down in Saline County. Always a shout out to Duck's Garage down there in Benton. If you're looking at getting your car fixed, then a great place to go, especially if you got a fleet of vehicles, diesels, etc. They can work on vehicles all size, shapes, and forms. Then also a shout out to Edwards Food Store. I was in there this morning, and that's usually when I do my shopping, to be honest with you, is Saturday morning, first thing early. And they've got a great selection of everything. They had plenty of meats, everything. They had their shelves well stocked. What was really impressive when I went in was they have it organized to where social distancing is practiced. You go through and, go through one way and controlled entrance into the store. The employee was standing there with the wipes, and as they gave you your cart, they wiped down all the touch points on it to sterilize it so as to kill, any potential germs on there. And then when you walk in, they've got markings on the floor that says, please practice social distancing, a lot of reminders on the floor as you go through. And then when you get to the checkout line, they've got designated spots that are 6 feet apart where you stand and wait to move up. And so, they're very conscientious about what's going on, especially. In fact, the second half of the show today, we're going to have a gentleman named Charles Spakes on. He is the CEO of the Arkansas Grocery Store Association, and we're going to be talking about all things related to grocery stores as far as the supply chain that's taking care of the stores, this concept of people hoarding and why are they doing that? And if he's really smart, he's going to answer the question that nobody's been able to answer yet, and that is, what's the big deal about toilet paper? That'll be in the second half of the hour. Always want to give a shout out also to Everett Buick GMC. This is a family-owned, customer-friendly sales and service. There's no better place to buy your next car than from Everett Buick GMC there at I-30 Alco Road. And you can discover the difference with Arkansas's best selection of new Buicks and GMCs at Everett Buick GMC. Test drive all the new 2020s that they've got, the GMC Sierra with the industry-leading multi-pro tailgate there at Everett. And you can visit them online at Everett BGMC, like buygmc.com, and discover the Everett difference. And if you're shopping for a top-quality pre-owned vehicle, check out the GM certified pre-owned vehicles with a 6-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty there at Everett Buick GMC on I-30 at Alcoa Exit. They'll take good care of you. All right, to begin our hour, we have a very special guest on today. And just for the listening audience or for those of you that are watching on Facebook Live, we are practicing social distancing here. We're in what is, I think, a 10-story building, and there might be 6 people, 7 people in this building. John on the other side of the glass is separating us, and then over here, Ben, which incidentally, if you want to send in a question, just go up to the video section, and it's got a comment section on the video there, and you can just send in a question for Dr. Ivy Pfeffer, who's going to be joining us in a second, or Charles, the second half, and we'll be glad to get that question answered on the air. One other thing before I bring my first guest on, also, we do now have our website up and going. It's thekimhammershow.com, thekimhammershow.com, and anything that's on there is factual, and I think it'll be beneficial for you to be able to, if you will, share that with all your friends and everybody you know, because it is going to be a good source of information, especially with all of COVID-19. I try to keep the most current things up on there. And as far as our Twitter account, we're about to get that up and going, so we'll be all things social media here in just a little bit. You can go back and watch the videos on the YouTube channel if you want to. I also do a daily devotion that if you want to get a spiritual charge to start the morning, you can go up and get that. They're anywhere between 3 and 8 minutes long, and so I encourage you to do that. All right, joining me for the first part of the hour is Dr. Ivy Pfeffer. She is the Deputy Commissioner for the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education here in the state of Arkansas. And if you don't mind, just for the sake of time, I'm going to call you Ivy. Is that okay with you?
That's great. Thank you, Senator.
All right. Well, thank you for joining me over the phone. We wanted to practice social distancing by not having you come in the studio, so I appreciate you joining us. If you want to start off, I always try to give agency personnel a little bit of chance to maybe tell something they're comfortable about telling the audience themselves personally, just kind of give some perspective about your life or maybe about your education. So let me give you just a second to kind of tell people whatever you're comfortable telling them about you as an individual.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me on here today. I am a lifelong educator. I think I'm completing my 25th year in education this year. I've been fortunate to have some really, really great experiences throughout my career. I started as a classroom teacher in Pocahontas, Arkansas, which is my hometown. I spent the majority of my career in Northeast Arkansas, and then I've had the privilege of getting to work for the Department of Education now for the past 7 years, and this is I'm completing my third year in the role as Deputy Commissioner, and I learn something new every day, and I think it's a privilege to be in a profession where you get to do that and get to and connect with so many different people around the state that have a singular mission, which is to make education great for the students in the state of Arkansas.
So if my math is right, you've got about 18 years in the classroom. Is that right?
I had 9 years in the classroom and then 9 years as a school administrator.
Very good. So you bring some experience to the position you're in, which is always good to hear. Those that have had actual experience in the classroom or in the school environment before they move up to the Department of Ed. So that's a good thing. Let's kind of get to some of the subject matter of the day with all the COVID-19 and how it's impacted the educational process here in Arkansas. First of all, can you just talk about the AMI and, about distance learning and some of the creative things that are being done in order to try to help educate kids through this time?
Yes. So I think Arkansas was kind of uniquely positioned to be able to have a little more seamless transition once we did have to close schools for on-site instruction because of the legislation passed a few years ago for alternate methods of instruction. While we never anticipated that AMI days would go beyond 2 or 3 days at a time for inclement weather or some other kind of emergency situation, what we've seen is that school districts have really gotten creative in keeping the learning going. And I think that's the thing that everyone has in common is that they realize that while schools may have to be closed for on-site instruction, learning is continuing. There are some challenges in areas of the state that where students don't have internet access at home, or maybe the internet access is more limited. But the districts are looking at ways to be able to deliver educational packets of materials to students to stay engaged. We've got districts that have regular drop-off and deliveries. We have districts that have made available packets to be picked up anytime from their schools. And I think that each school, after these first few weeks, what we're hearing more and more now is districts are engaging with their parents and students to find out what adjustments do we need to make. So I'm really proud of the work that's been done so far.
One of the things that I think we were talking about previously this week was the issue of districts having to kind of learn their own way as far as how they're going to meet the needs of their students. Some are in more populated areas where maybe traveling to get a packet isn't as difficult as maybe somebody in a rural portion of the state where they maybe would have to travel several miles. So are the districts having to conform under a set guideline that's being directed by the state, or are they each trying to adapt to what fits the role model for their population of students that they are trying to make sure they get access either on internet or through the packets or other means maybe that they're developing out there?
We've just tried to take the approach to provide as many options and to make districts aware of the options that they do have. And we also are working to share out, based on what we hear from other districts, and work with the educational service cooperatives to share out what some best practices that we see are already developing. What we've tried to do is make sure that districts have maximum flexibility in how they approach the off-site learning for students, and but also realizing that with that flexibility, there is a great amount of responsibility. And from a state level, we're going to continue to look at what options could be, what options might evolve over time, so that if districts do need to make adjustments, they can.
With regards to grades counting and seniors graduating and how that is going to play out, is there the directive coming down from the state as far as seniors having to complete so many days before the end of school when they can actually graduate? I know about a week or two ago there was one particular district which, upon receiving some counsel, changed their mind. That was actually going to try to do a graduation of their seniors. So as far as the directive coming out of the department to schools with regards to how long do they need to count their grades, do they have to go to the completion of the calendar year as though they were in school? What about those decisions that relate around those issues? Are they do they have their own individual opportunity to make their choice district by district, or are y'all sending out directives that apply to all of them?
Yeah. So districts have the flexibility to make the decisions about the seniors and their senior classes. And even within a certain group of students, there are some students that are going to need to continue to do things that others aren't. So, for example, if you have 12th grade students who are taking concurrent classes where they're enrolled also for credit with local colleges, they're going to need to continue to complete the work that's required there. We did issue the directive that we wanted districts to look at whether or not students were on track at the end of the third 9 weeks. So thinking about the fact that students have spent 12 3/4 of their lives, or 12 3/4 years of their lives in our education system, looking to see have they met the statutory requirements for graduation. What we wanted districts to do is make sure that an AMI assignment was not going to stand between a senior and graduation, and also start looking at what is it that seniors need now to really prepare them to take those next steps. We have districts kind of have had different dates as far as what the end of the school year looks like for seniors anyway. A lot of, if you look at a lot of school calendars, a lot of them were planning to have, seniors being finished up the first week or so of May. So over these next few weeks, it's the expectation that districts keep their seniors engaged. And while that might look different than what it would have looked like had this situation not occurred, we also realized that if we weren't confident in how well students were doing by the end of that third 9 weeks, there were probably a lot of other issues already going on.
Now, some of the things that you have to deal with, and maybe people know this or don't, some of the decisions are made at the state level as far as how it impacts school districts, but there are some things that are coming down from the feds that you just have to implement because, it's a requirement coming down from the feds. One of them was the waiving of the testing this year. Can you speak to how you think that's going to impact the students, and as far as the scores and the outcome as when they get ready to either go up to the next grade level or when they get ready to go to college, with the feds deciding that they don't have to do the testing like we've always done before?
So the impact of not testing is there. So we have kind of two different areas. You have state accountability requirements and federal accountability requirements. And so we have a group that's going to be working with us over the next month or so to help us really look at both short and long-term impacts of not administering the state assessments this year. State assessments, as far as the impact on students, there shouldn't be any negative impact for a student by not having taken a state assessment this year. The impact for schools is that you're losing a data point that is often a valuable tool to kind of look at student growth, whether or not the things that have been put in place are, as a school, are you moving kids to where they should be? So there'll be some data that that we're going to have to help think about with school districts as far as what could be some data that could be implemented once students are returning to school. What are some things that we're going to need to look at as far as making sure that that students have been able to be taught those essential skills that they need. So we're confident in that it's not going to have a negative impact on an individual student, but we are going to have to look at what does it mean for long-term accountability and information about how well schools are serving students.
Let me drop back and pick up on one point as far as you mentioned the accessibility of packets. I know in a couple of my local districts, and it may be this way statewide, that they come by and can pick up their packets on, I think it's 2 days a week, and then they have to turn it in by a certain day of the week. And that's one of the methods, especially for those that do not have internet. The one thing I would like to stress, I know there's a big movement on the part of Governor Hutchinson and the legislative branch to try to get broadband service throughout all of the state. I think if there was ever a point in time where it was critical to understand how we need that, this is it, because who have ever thought that this was going to happen, but it has. And some of the kids are somewhat disadvantaged that don't have internet service in their home because they live in the rural part of the state or areas of the state that are not being serviced. So I just kind of want to throw that in as a point of emphasis, how critical it is that we do need to get broadband service throughout the state. You got any thoughts on that?
I would agree that it is definitely something that that every citizen is going to want to look at. And I think right now in the interim, we see some really great examples like districts utilizing their school buses and equipping those with hotspots where they can go and park that bus in a part of the community that provides access to others. So, that can be a really good resource. But, there are going to be ongoing issues in the more rural parts of the states. And even sometimes when you have the internet access, when you think about a household, if you've got 3 or 4 children and all 3 or 4 children are trying to download and stream, even if you have Wi-Fi access, you may not have enough access for everybody to be doing everything at the same time. So I think that we're all going to have to be aware of that AMI instruction may not be able to fit within even the time of the traditional school day. And there may need to be more flexibility as far as the time that students have to complete assignments and how they're able then to submit work. So there are a lot of considerations there. Well,
and you hit on a topic there. I was in a discussion with a constituent this past week, and they were talking about the challenge of balancing their internet service because both parents have been forced into the home to work because their offices have shut down. They moved everybody home, and there's 3 kids. So you got mom, dad, 3 kids, and one internet provider into the home, and the lag time that it's creating. So they're having to get real creative about about how they manage their time to access that internet. Let me ask you, as far as now, when we talk about AMI, make sure that my memory's serving me best. That goes back a couple sessions ago, and I think it was originally sold as snow days because everybody's concern was that we'd be out of school for 2 or 3 days for snow. And this was the means whereby, kids could continue to keep up with their schoolwork and not be pushed into the middle of summer in order to finish up. Am I remembering right?
Yes, sir, you're correct.
Okay. So who would have ever thought back then that it was going to be used in this application? But I kind of think it was a God thing. And if I remember right, and if I'm giving credit to the wrong person, I apologize. But I think then Representative Charlene Douglas was the one that kind of helped promote that bill. And of course, it got a lot of legislative support too. But, I think
Yes.
sometimes God prepares the way before us for what we don't even know is coming. And then when it happens, at least we had it in place. As far as alternate learning methods, I know that the department, I think, has secured arrangements with the television station over there at UCA, the PBS station. How is that working out, and how is that playing into helping make sure kids can continue their education through this time?
I'm really glad you asked about that. Week one has been a huge success, and so we're really pleased with the partnership and with the response that we've gotten so far. We had asked districts who were going to utilize the PBS content in some way to respond so that we could keep track of that. I don't have those numbers today, but I think that's something we'll definitely want to start sharing. We have some districts that didn't start the PBS lessons last week because they had already made plans for the week after spring break, but they may start utilizing them this week. So some are using them in combination with some locally developed things. Some are, though, using it as their AMI option. And I've heard from a couple of parents who have been excited because the PBS resources are designed to really promote engagement. And even when you have multiple children who are different ages in the household, the types of lessons, the types of things they're doing are really being a lot of fun. I talked to someone the other night who their child was setting up a grocery store in their living room to practice their math and practice counting, and they were laughing because they had some different items out, and they had a Bible and a roll of toilet paper, and the Bible was free, and the roll of toilet paper cost $10. So
a Gideon
the
Bible.
kids had a lot of fun with setting up grocery store for mom and dad. Dad was hoping they were playing with Monopoly money instead of real money. So those are some really neat examples, I think, and I'm really proud of our educators who have been involved with PBS and our teachers of the year who are helping to facilitate those lessons.
And that was, we'll go out here at the bottom of the hour. Can you hang on through the break for the news break and come back and join us for the second half? Okay. So who actually helped develop the lessons that are being put out through PBS? Who is putting out the material or structuring the material?
Stacy Smith is the assistant commissioner whose team has taken the lead with this. So I'm going to give the main credit to Stacy, and I know she'd be able to detail out all the individuals who really contributed.
All right, I tell you what, let me recognize my sponsors. I'll bring you back because when we come back, I want to talk to you about the food situation in the schools and talk about some of the creative ways in which people have been meeting this challenge, some of the positive things going on in the midst of where we are right now. So if you'll hang on to the bottom of the hour, I want to thank my sponsors, Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy in Saline County, Duck's Garage down in Benton, Edward Food Stores throughout all of Central Arkansas and over in East Arkansas. As always, they have great stocked stores that are clean and just very well organized through this time. You get in and out. In fact, I was in and out in less than probably 20 minutes this morning, got everything I went in there for, and it was a pretty good-sized basket. Also want to thank Everett's down in Saline County as well. Looking for a good GMC product, whether new or used or otherwise, go down there, see those folks. One thing I want to promote to you is tomorrow at this time from noon to 1, I'll be presenting the sermon that I preached to my church, which we're not meeting right now, and the subject matter is going to be dealing with worry. And so if you want to join us tomorrow at noon here on this station, we'll be glad to have you join us as our guest. We come back, we'll continue our conversation, and we're going to bring on the Grocery Store Association guy right after this.
Do you currently get regular structured settlement or annuity payments from an insurance company for a personal injury, auto accident claim, wrongful death, or inheritance? If so, you don't have to wait for months or even years to get the cash you need now to cover urgent expenses like debts, tuition, medical bills, or exciting events like a new baby or down payment on a home. With over 25 years experience, J.G. Wentworth, the country's leader in structured settlement purchasing, has helped thousands of people get the cash they need. Call today at 800-741-5929. We offer flexible options that pay you a lump sum of cash for a portion of your payments, ensuring you get the money you need now while still receiving future payments from your structured settlement or annuity. And unlike others, J.G. Wentworth is a direct funder and can streamline the process, helping you get the lump sum of cash you need faster. For your free Cash Now quote, call 800-741-5929. That's 800-741-5929. 800-741-5929.
This is Michael Medved for Town Hall. The coronavirus forced a resolution of Israel's polarizing, paralyzing political stalemate. Benny Gantz, the former Army Chief of Staff, who fought Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to a virtual tie in 3 national elections in the course of a year, finally accepted his rival's invitation to join an emergency national unity government to fight the pandemic. To do so, Gantz had to split with the left-leaning elements of his blue and white party. Now, this isn't betrayal. It's a demonstration of putting patriotism above party. Netanyahu also agreed to concessions. After 18 more months in the top job, Israel's longest-serving prime minister will step down and enable his new partner to become prime minister for the next 18 months. The clearest winner in all of this is the nation of Israel, which sends a message to our American friends about the importance of coalition and compromise, especially in times of peril. I'm Michael Medved.
Sponsored by.
Hey, welcome back to the Kim Hammer Show. Thank you for joining us today. Again, shout out to my sponsors, Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy, realtors in Saline County, but they can represent you, take care of you throughout all Central Arkansas. Duck's Garage down in Benton, take care of you on your automotive needs, whether it's a small car up to a large fleet tractor-trailer rig, they can take care of you. Edwards Food Stores throughout Central Arkansas, over in East Arkansas, and then also Everett GMC Buick down Saline County, where you can get the best of a new GMC deal, or look at their top fleet or their top line of pre-owned vehicles that come 6-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty on the GM certified pre-owned vehicles. Want to remind you that tomorrow at noon on this station and also via live Facebook, I'll be bringing the sermon that I normally would be preaching to our church, but we're practicing social distancing and not meeting during this time. And the sermon is going to be entitled How to Deal with Worry. And then let me go ahead and tell you about our guests next week. We have confirmed that we're going to have Senator Bozeman on next Saturday, and then we'll also be joined by Cody Waits, and we're going to talk about apprenticeship opportunities here in the state, which going through this time of uncertainty and with the unemployment, you certainly want to be aware of what's out there as far as apprenticeship opportunities. So invite you to join me back here next week on the Kim Hammer Show. And then also, we did get our website up and launched, and so you can go to thekimhammershow.com, and that'll be a good place for you to go to link on to all the things that we talk about on the show and other daily material that I think you'll find informative, but more importantly, you'll find factual, and that means a lot right there. So we're going to finish up with Dr. Ivy Pfeffer, who is the Department Commissioner for the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education. And thank you for joining me and taking time away from your family today. So, Ivy, let me come back and start off by asking you about the meals. There's been a lot of effort by the school districts to make sure those kids that are dependent upon those breakfast meals and noontime meals to be able to continue to get them. And I know schools are doing some pretty creative things about how they're trying to take care of the kids. Can you talk about that for just a second?
Sure. We have at least 237 of the 255 school districts that participated in the school lunch program who are providing meals to students in some form or fashion right now. So that's a tremendous response by school districts, and our child nutrition unit is going to be reaching out to the ones that we've not heard from just to see if they are making plans or doing that and need some assistance from us. We schools are taking advantage of a lot of different options. We've got at least 6 waivers right now from the USDA that's allowing more flexibility in how meals are able to be prepared and being able to provide meals in advance so that when families come to pick up meals, they can pick up meals for multiple days, and also a little flexibility in what's required to include in the meal in order to get the reimbursement. So all of that is really being helpful. And we're so pleased with the response that we've had from districts to recognize that is a huge need right now for our students.
Well, and I'm glad that the federal government is working with the state level to relax some of the requirements as far as not necessarily accountability to where people can go out and do fraudulent things, but they are flexing the opportunities or opening up the opportunities to make sure the need is met. So I want to give recognition to the federal level, too, that these are not normal times, and we are responding in an extraordinary way. So I want to give some recognition to them for the latitude they've passed down to you. So here's the question. If schools should be closed for the remainder of the year, how are you going to be prepared? And I'm not asking you to tell us if schools are going to be closed or not. That's the governor's call. He's referenced Friday that he's going to take that subject up Monday. But let's just say if it is that schools are closed, how is that going to shape the rest of the year? And is anything going to change other than what we've been doing the last 2 or 3 weeks?
Well, I think a positive thing that we've heard from school districts as we've talked to them over the past several days is that they are prepared to do whatever is necessary for their students for whatever length of time is necessary. I think that the flexibilities that we've been given from both federal and state requirements allows for just ongoing support for whatever that support needs to look like. Right now, there are waivers from certain requirements that go through April 17th, and if those need to be extended so that there can be continued flexibility, I know that's something that that everyone will be looking at. So I think from an operational standpoint, I think it goes back to the fact that we were able to continue education from the very first time the decision was made to have to close schools to on-site instruction. And, we were able to just seamlessly go into off-site delivery of learning. And I think that we've seen a lot of, it seems almost counterintuitive to say we're having more collaboration among schools now than when they were actually in session. But I think what we're starting to see with superintendents is that they're taking advantage of technology tools and communicating with each other, and they're reaching out to provide supports and to share resources. So I think all of those are positive signs that we'll respond for whatever length of time is necessary.
I will say this, in many areas of state government, there has been there are many positive things that are coming out of a very negative and difficult situation. And you're right, we're rethinking the way that we've done business, and kind of leads me up to my next question. Do you see education in the future being the same, or do you see that we are going to go through a significant change as far as how we do education in the future? I know that we talked about the AMI, we talked about PBS, but also, Zoom and how it's being incorporated into the educational system. So based on what you're hearing from the schools, how do you think this is going to have long-term impact and ramifications on the way that we do business when it comes to educating our kids?
From what I've seen, and this has really been made apparent to us through our PLC pilot schools and their response, we are seeing more and more focus on what is essential. And I think that's going to become a main focus for schools everywhere. Sometimes we do things and we start things and things grow to the point that you look around and you wonder, why are we doing what we're doing? And I think this is really the opportunity that it's taking us back to really think about what is it that is essential for students to know and to be able to do, and how do we know when they're being successful, and how do we respond when they are and when they are not. So I would expect that the changes in education in the future are really going to start with that question and give us the opportunity to make sure that we do come out of this situation better and doing better for kids. So, I think that again, it goes back, I guess, to what I started out my conversation with you. Education is a great profession, and we have that opportunity to continue to grow and learn, and realize that we can always get better.
Always room for improvement. One thing, some have reached out to me. The ACT test that was supposed to be given, I think, in April, I think is going to get pushed back to possibly June, or they don't have that date set. Are you knowledgeable on that subject that you could comment?
I know that students that were registered for the April exam have automatically been registered for the June exam. I don't know the date of the June exam, but I do know that opportunity is going to be there for those students to be able to take the test. I know that Dr. Markham and all of the Department of Higher Education officials are monitoring things very closely, and they're aware that whatever decisions that need to be made to prevent negative impact on students is going to be something that they're going to really work toward.
Very good. And I know there are several clubs, and this will be the final comment. There are several clubs, several organizations that are preparing now to use what tools they already have, but also to bring on some new tools to help kids during the summer to make sure that there's not that summer slide, especially coming off what's going to be the last 2 months of distance learning. So I think one thing that we need to be conscientious of, like the Boys and Girls Club Alliance of Arkansas, I know that they have programs in place, and they're beefing up their programs in order to be able to help kids through the summer that are in the clubs to be able to stop that summer slide. And we just hope that everything that's being done now will not accelerate or contribute to that. So when they come back in the fall, that they're able to pick up. And, I really don't want to go back to normal. I'd like to see normalcy redefined as far as learning what we've experienced and bring about some new opportunities in the area of education. And we appreciate all of our educators. I think every parent out there would fall on the ground and worship their teacher right now because they've had to be the teachers in the home. So we got a whole new level of appreciation for teachers, and we appreciate what you do at the Department of Ed. Any final words you want to share with us?
I appreciate you, and I think what you said, we want a better normal in the future, and I think that our community partners and all those that can be involved with helping students, we welcome all of those partnerships, and we know our school districts do too. So I would just ask for everybody to please let us know how we can help schools, students, communities, and just thank you for this opportunity to get to share some information.
All right. You've been listening to Dr. Ivy Pfeffer. She is the Deputy Commissioner for the Division of Elementary and Secondary Education here in Arkansas. We've been talking about education and how it's a little bit different these days, but yet there's still a positive side to it because of all the new experiences we're learning. So appreciate you being on the phone with us, and hope your family stays safe, and look forward to seeing you soon. All right, let's transition. We've got Charlie Spake, who is the CEO of the Arkansas Grocery Association, who's joining us on the phone. We're going to talk about grocery stores and the supply line. While he's getting set up on the phone, I just want to say a shout out to sponsors again: Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy, Saline County. Take care of all your real estate needs. Everett, GMC Buick down there at I-30 and Alcoa Road. They can take care of you with a new GMC or a GM certified pre-owned vehicle. It comes with a 6-year, 100,000-mile powertrain warranty. Also want to say thanks to Duck's Garage. Take care of all your automotive needs. And then Edwards Food Store here in Central Arkansas. And remind you also that we now have our website up and going. It's thekimhammershow.com, You can go up there, and every day I try to post information that is relevant and factual, that just kind of keeps you up with what's going on in the state of Arkansas. It's got all the video archives on there. You can go to the YouTube section of it. Even have a spiritual section if you want to listen to the daily devotions that I'm putting up now, or the sermons I'm actually preaching on Sunday while our church is worshiping from a distance. You can go up there and hit the spiritual section, pick that up as well. All right, so now on the line, we have Charles Spakes. And Charles, thank you for taking time out and joining us today on the Kim Hammer Show.
Thanks for having me.
So you want to tell people a little bit about yourself, and first of all, how is it that you got in the position that you're in as the CEO of the Arkansas Grocery Association, and what is it that got you into that position first?
I was an attorney for the Governor Hutchinson for his first year and a half of him in office, and then I just I met some people, and this position came open, and it seemed like a perfect fit. So I'm blessed to be a part of this, and we have some great members that help put food in homes around the state.
You did a video this past week, and I think the subject of it was about hoarding and kind of the rush that's going on in the grocery stores. And if we don't have it, I'll make sure that gets put up on my website so people can go and see it, because it's kind of a personal message that you're making appeal. What about, just talk for a second about the supply line that's taking care of keeping the stores restocked, and also talk about a little bit about the food hoarding. Is it really necessary, or what are some of your thoughts along that line?
Yeah, that's some common misconceptions about shelters in place and all of that kind of all aggregate the problem. But the supply chain is fine. There's no problems with the supply chain. What happened in a lot of these people, a lot of people can understand being at their home 24/7 now. It's kind of like the supply chain is great. The demand just shot through the roof. So when you see these empty shelves at your grocery store, that's not because there's a supply chain problem. It's because there's been an overbuying problem. People have felt and thought that when we do a shelter in place, or the country does that you won't be able to go to the grocery store anymore. That's not true. Grocery stores will remain open. If we can kind of curb some of this hoard buying and buying like you normally would, then you'll start to see these shelves be able to stock quicker and come back around to normal buying patterns. What's happened is people have just been buying, like I said, through the roof, and that's caused a real backlog as far as being able to get all the shelves stocked and be able to continue to stay stocked. So, what we've been trying to tell people is, shop safe, shop for what you need, but don't shop for 3 months. Shop like you normally would. Most families shop on a week-to-week basis. So if you can, please continue doing that.
I think miscommunication contributes a lot to the problem, because you mentioned about the shelter in place, that people get this concept that they're going to be locked in their house and they're not going to be able to go out and exercise any essential services like, their drug stores or their food lines. And that's part of the panic frenzy, I think, that takes place, that, quite honestly, I really wish people would stop, because I think sometimes the media will post up those images of long lines at grocery stores, and it just kind of plants the idea in people's head that we're actually having a food shortage. And in reality, we do not have a food shortage in America right now. Is that a fair statement, or can you defend that?
Yeah, no, we have no food shortages at all. A lot of times with these lines you're seeing, they're not because of food shortages. What they are is that these are safety precautions grocers are taking to try to make people do social distancing. If you've been looking in the news, Walmart, for instance, just instituted that nationwide, where they're going to only let so many people per square feet. That has nothing to do with the food supply chain and everything to do with trying to keep their stores as clean and as trying to keep social distancing to 6 foot apart as they can. If you see a line, we've also done some safe. We've put out a list of some safe shopping tips. You need to allow for some extra time when you go to the grocery store. And some of that is to help, is because stores are doing this to reduce their crowding. And another thing to practice the social distancing is, try not to take the whole family if you don't have to. If you can, come by yourself, and that will ease some of this long lines.
If you would send me that list, and I'll get that posted up to my website so people can see that. I just thought about it because I went by a grocery store this morning, not one that advertises on the show, so I'm not giving free advertising. But anyway, I went by a grocery store and they were lined up outside of it. But actually, the line moved in because I circled back around about 30 minutes later on my way back from the grocery store, and they had actually got the line reduced pretty quickly. I think sometimes just common sense prevails. If you've got a list of what you want before you go in there and you shop at a store that you're familiar with, you're going to be able to get in and out a lot quicker, which will help the flow of the line. How are stores dealing with where maybe they have a high volume of people? Is there any concept of they're not trying to control, like, you shop if your last name begins with A through Z, or A through D, you shop during this hour? They're not trying to do any of that kind of stuff, are they?
No, they're not doing anything like that. Right now, it's kind of some of those stores are just trying to control the amount of people per square feet in their store. And like I said, that a lot of that will help with the stocking. If they can keep the social distancing themselves like that, that can help the crowds. And a lot of times, like I said, and you've said, that is just misconceptions that you're not going to be able to get food. Personally, I've been trying to do some social distancing, so I've done and most grocers do this. Tried to do a lot of my grocery shopping through delivery. I've been able to get every item that I've wanted. There's not been one thing that I've tried to order, meat, chicken, any of the essentials that haven't been able to deliver to me. So they're not trying to keep you out based on anything other than trying to maintain some safe social distancing. And sometimes people won't do that themselves, so stores are trying to help the cause.
The adjusted store hours that some of the stores have gone through, the purpose behind the adjusted hours is just mainly to allow the stores to restock the shelf because they can't keep up with the demand during the day, or what's the idea behind the limited store hours? And do you see, and I know this kind of changes every day with new information coming down from, the national level, but do you kind of see a end in sight with the changes that are being implemented as to when things might go back to normal, or what's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, you're exactly right. That's what these reduced store hours for, is because with the huge amount of demand and people at home and people buying, their clerks are constantly checking out people, trying to restock. So these reduced hours are exactly like you said, to help keep those shelves stocked overnight. And another thing is give them extra time to clean. Another thing is we've tried to say, try to shop with your eyes, not with your hands. But our grocery stores are acting like people are shopping as normal. So they're taking those times to get the shelves stocked, but also trying to sanitize to make sure nothing spreads in their stores. As far as these hours, I think they're pretty set for a little while. I don't think you're going to see any big reductions. I think the hours you've seen from stores are probably going to stay until this is all over with. I wish I knew exactly how long that was, but we just don't right now. But I don't see any big changes as far as that coming in. The only thing you might see is more stores go to a Walmart type policy about limiting the crowd in their stores.
Do you mentioned about online ordering? There was already kind of a trend going that direction with the stores, and several of the stores are going to, self-checkout. So do you find, or do you think that once we get this experience behind our belt, do you think that this is going to change the culture of grocery shopping, that people will, stay with the online ordering once they get accustomed to doing it? Or with regards to the trends that you see? What do you see the future looking like, and how is this going to reshape the future?
Yeah, that's a great point. I think this is definitely going to reshape the future. I think a lot of people were hesitant to buy groceries online. It's just one of those new age things that, a lot of people like to go in, and it's kind of forcing people to move towards that. And I tend to agree. I think this will move the trend along a lot quicker than it normally would have. I think you'll see a lot of people that have grown accustomed to the convenience, and the scare is away. They're used to people picking out their groceries for them. They're seeing that it's not, that there's no scare to it, that people bring it right to the door. And I think you're going to see, this is just my opinion, but I think it will move a lot of people more to that. If they don't move to curbside, which you've seen a huge amount of people have been doing, I think it's going to really push people to that online delivery. I mean, the convenience is super high. And once people, like anything else in the world, once people get a little taste of convenience, I think it's hard for them to go away from it.
As far as I've seen a lot of help wanted sign in stores. Do you have any idea about what the percentage of people that have had to be hired in order to meet the needs at the store? There had to be a bump up, it looks like.
Oh, it's been incredible. We've been on almost every news channel a couple weeks ago, letting people know that if they want a job, if they're displaced from the restaurant industry or the fitness industry or the hair industry, that there's almost for certain a job for you at a grocery store now. I don't know the exact percentage, but when I first was trying to talk to my grocers around the state and get like the exact stores, they almost said, like, if you walk into a grocery store, they probably need help. And from what I'm hearing there, that's still the case. I had a grocer in Damascus saying, I hire 5 people, 4 people might not be at work the next week. So, they're still hiring as quick as they can do it. The interview process is pretty quick. As you can guess, the managers don't have a lot of time to sit and twiddle their thumbs. So usually I've seen instances where people have interviewed and in under 36 hours, they've been in the store making money. So
I'm gonna step out on a limb. We're in the last 2 minutes. Damascus is where I grew up. I graduated South Side B Branch. Is that goods up there in Damascus you're talking about?
It is a good cash saver.
I do a little business with Steve that owns that. That's a good store, and I'm glad it's in Damascus because otherwise they'd be kind of a food desert otherwise. So I'm glad that Steve has good store up there in Damascus. So if you're in that area, doesn't compete with my other advertiser, I'd encourage you to go by and support. Always stay local if you can. That's a good thing. All right, I got 1 minute for you to answer the most important question that people ask, and that is, what's the big deal with toilet paper, and when are you going to get enough in the stores?
Well, we're trying to. If people would stop hoard buying, we'll get it set up. It's kind of one of those things where I think people thought that they, just like other items, they wouldn't be able to get out of their house and they wouldn't be able to find it. If you'll just buy normally, if everyone would do that, our shelves would be flooded with toilet paper and it wouldn't be a big deal. I think that was one of the biggest surprises for grocers is that happens. And I think it's a pretty big correlation with people thinking they were going to be stuck in their house with not being able to get any more.
Well, I know stores have started placing limits of 2 packages. They've done that with the meat, and that's not intended to imply that there's a shortage. It's just a matter of people hoarding up. So I'm down to 30 seconds. Charlie, I appreciate you being on. That's Charlie Spake, who's with the CEO of the Arkansas Grocery Association. I appreciate you coming on, just clarifying some things. Shout out to my sponsors before we go today: Baxley, Penfield, Mowdy, Everett, GMC Buick, Edwards Food Store, Duck's Garage. Also want you to know that we are now at the KimHammerShow.com on the web. Encourage you to go there. I'll be back on tomorrow at noon to present a sermon on Don't Worry or how to help with worry. Thanks for joining the Kim Hammer Show today.
101.1 FM, The Answer. KDXE FM, Kamak Village, Little Rock. A Salem Media Group station. 101.1 FM, The Answer.